What you're listening to is a beat I made out of a building called the chromophone. There's this plaza right around the corner from where I live that just built a new fountain in their courtyard area with an interesting feature of a 4-story high sequencer and sample pad, something that they call the chromophone. There's this huge TV-like screen that casts a sort of digital music station on it. It's sort of performed or played by this touchscreen bar, which there's 5 of them on the patio in front of the fountain. There's 2 musical modes. One is free play, and the other is tune composer, which is really just a trigger pad and a sequencer. Now, starting off, this sequencer is vertical rather than horizontal, which is very different than literally every piece of music software that exists. In this mode, each beam is a different instrument. And on each beam, there are 8 touch-sensitive nodes, each of which correspond to the appropriate 8th note of the one measure phrase you're restricted to play in. Here's a little demonstration. Where I touch the node here, it creates a note here. And when I touch the node right under it, it creates a note right there. So on and so forth. So the first beam is just a wooden block sound on every space. The second beam is a mix of percussion like cowbells, shakers, tambourines, things like that. And the other 3 are all just marimba sounds. They all just play notes in the C major pentatonic scale. Altogether, it creates a really nice aesthetic, I think, that definitely has a sort of Eastern Asian sound to it, which is pretty funny considering that there are some forms of Asian notation that actually read from top to bottom, just like the sequencer. If you leave the beams untouched long enough, the entire pattern will fall down and all the notes will sound along with it as they pass through their musical graveyard. There are actually different sound templates depending on what time of day you're there. When I went later at night, there was a nice piano and drum set groove I programmed right here. The second mode is simply a triggered sample pad. Now, each note on the beam turns into a single sound that plays the instant you touched it, just like a normal instrument. This is the more live mode, as you can have a bunch of people come together on each beam and play in real time with each other, rather than the other mode where you sort of program the music and you watch it go by. Of course, my pragmatic creativity wanted me to think about each and every sound individually, but it was really interesting when a kid came over and just ran his fingers across the beams however he felt like, making this huge wave of beautiful bell sounds all clashing with each other in a chaotic yet harmonious chord. So unfortunately, as you can tell, I have terrible angles and every shot is overexposed. I had a really hard time seeing the actual screen because it was really dark outside, and the speaker for this thing was way up there, so there's no way I could get a clear recording of everything with my portable recorder, but I did my best. So of course I went home and sampled all these sounds in my computer, and that's the music you've been listening to for the last few minutes. Of course, I added some of my own instruments too, some strings, other percussion, but I really wanted to keep the heart of this track coming from the main sounds and effects I got on site. There's a link to the track itself in the description if you're interested in just listening to it on its own. Thanks for watching, dudes. Be sure to check out my other stuff on Spotify and YouTube and other things, or you can just not do that and go home and hang out with your dog.